Dum 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 intro music by Don, because we haven't figured one out yet. Okay, that's it. That's going to be the intro for today. So, good afternoon, evening, good morning, whatever time you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to this from. Thank you very much for tuning again to the Identity Human podcast. I thought today we would give a bit of an intro, tell a story, give a bit of the vision of where we're trying to go. What's the point? So why are you giving up your half hour to 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long they last, listening to this podcast? And what's the plan? Just, we want to get you to buy in, we want to get you going in the same direction, almost like create alignment. So what is it about? So I've written some questions down to ask myself, and hopefully this helps you follow on. What is the plan? Well, the plan with the podcast is to be able to create a platform that I can talk about things that I really enjoy talking about, that I know some of the community on Twitch or Discord that are also interested in. I've been told to start a podcast for a while now, because there's a wide range of things that we cover, and I just haven't. And one of the main reasons I haven't is some of the stuff we chat about isn't necessarily related to just gaming or just leadership or just one specific thing, but I can't get away from the fact that it relates to humans, because I got a background in psychology and organizational psychology, and I'll tell a bit more of my story now so that you understand where I'm coming from. But mindset is a huge passion, and everything that goes with it. So when it comes to mindset, that's mental health goes in there, happy, sad emotions, motivation, unmotivated. All of those things are something that I cannot switch my focus off of. And I want to make sure that I create a platform that uniquely frees me up, so that I don't feel like I have to talk about a specific niche, because where I am in my journey, I'm not there yet in terms of having to niche, or maybe I have niched and I don't even realize it. So any feedback's always good, especially from the community. 360-degree feedback is the best type of feedback, because I don't know if you've ever heard of what's Johari's window. That's that 4 quadrants of, there's things that I know about myself that other people know about me. There's things that other people know about me that I don't know about myself. There's things that I know about myself that other people don't know about me. And then the last one, there's things that I don't know about myself and no one else knows about me. And I think that one fascinates me, is that dark 4th quadrant that's got it's like, not, it's Simba and Mufasa are standing on Pride Rock and talking about the elephant graveyard. He's like, everything the light touches is our kingdom, Simba, except for the elephant graveyard. And he's like, I want to go there. So that darkness is where I want us to constantly travel into and not be scared of it. So, I mean, I've got my power sentence as I am powerful beyond measure, and I'll speak about that as we go. But the whole point of that is where that first came from was I was literally doing a talk on the Johari's window. And I'd heard that power, like the saying of our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And that was in the back of my mind the whole time. I didn't really understand it, but there was something about it. And I was doing a talk, and I think it was on growth mindset and self-awareness. And that Johari's window came up, because look, the way we increase our self-awareness is by asking for feedback. Direct feedback, indirect feedback, all those kinds of things. You shift those quadrants in that Johari's window image. If you've seen it before, if you haven't, maybe just look it up. And then I got to this, like, when things just connect. And I got to and in that quadrant is the dark quadrant, is where people don't know about things, people don't know about you, and the things you don't know about yourself. And suddenly it hit me as like, powerful beyond measure is constantly trying to go beyond the measure of what you know. Does that make sense? So it's beyond the measure of the awareness, things that other people know about you, and it's beyond the measure of things that you know about yourself. So you always want to go beyond that. And that, I think, epitomizes for me like growth mindset and everything. Is if you've got feedback, we're always looking at like, well, what's next? If you've got goals, you always got to you have to think about like what's after that goal when you achieve it, because the way that human beings work is if you're determined enough, you'll achieve your goals. And where we come unstuck is when we achieve our goals and we don't know what's next. And that's what I want, like the powerful beyond measure is like, okay, now I've achieved that. What's the next bit? And it's a fine balance between curbing our ambition and making sure that we appreciate what we've got in the moment, and then also having the ability to push on. And we look at books like Ikigai and Purpose and things like that, is we want to make something that's ever evolving. And if it's ever evolving, you always have something to look towards. I think what happens is we start to live a life where we don't have a purpose, we don't know our direction, we don't know where we want to go, and that leaves us sitting or standing still. And I mean, I think it was Dale Carnegie's How to Make Friends and Influence People, and he said, I think the sayings from that book is, inactivity breeds fear. So if you think about that in a roundabout way, the way to make sure that you keep moving forward so you're not suffering in inactivity is having a goal, having something to work towards. That's where intrinsic motivation comes from. That's the thing that gets you out of bed when every other excuse has gone out the window. It's going, where do we want to be? What is that going to look like, and what I need to do to get there? And you're constantly reaffirming yourself according to that. So a long tangent there. What's the plan? That's what we're about. It's pretty much growth mindset, trying to do some performance stuff, and make sure that everyday people can take elements that we speak about and apply it to their lives to make a difference to themselves. Now, a big African philosophy that we strive by is Ubuntu. We are who we are through others, and there's a lot that goes into that. But what I've lately tried to explain is, when you first listen to that, you go, "What we are who we are through others." So therefore, I need to focus on everyone else and make sure that they're good. And we get brought up thinking, leave yourself last. It's okay. It doesn't matter. But actually, it's the opposite of that. If you can realize that we are who we are through others, and we focus on ourselves and make ourselves the best version we can be, other people will be that, because remember, they are who they are through us. So if we can remember that, like how connected we are, like if sometimes all you want to do is make the biggest difference, then all you got to do is focus on yourself. And by focusing on yourself, you'll inspire other people, because you'll be raising your own bar and raising their bar for them. And that's just social animals. That's we mirror, the mirror neurons always want to copy what we see. Influence is really important. So without going on too much of a tangent, because I think we could speak about that for a long time, what is identity human? I think I've kind of touched on that. Identity human is the one way that I feel we need to just make sure that we're all connecting to each other and thinking, what is the one thing that connects us all? Rather than in the world that we currently live in, where we always go, what is the one thing that divides us all? I'm going to find something that is different between you and me, and then we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to prove that my difference is better than yours. But actually, it should be the other way around. Like, we should be talking about what unites everyone. And when we know what unites us, we can have much better discussions as to what are the subtle differences, how can I get the best out of me to help you, and vice versa. And I think there's so many different examples that I'd love to talk to someone about, in terms of like, what are the things that unite us? If we can constantly look for those, you'll find you get along with people a lot better. It's a lot easier, because you haven't got your guard up. There's no chimp up there going, my troop's better than yours. It's just going, what can we learn? How can we evolve here? What's the end game? So it's a good question about what the end game of this. I mean, the identity human end game is to make sure that we are creating a strong enough community, a strong enough brand, the same as what we're trying to do within gas, that people can come there because they feel part of something. I think that is a big thing missing at the moment. There's a lot of people, when you ask them, what are you about? Who are you? What's your history? Where do you come from? Like people don't know. And I think it's important that we've got to start somewhere. We've got to, like, what's the source of anyone? And then source as in like SOURCE, just to be clear. And the source of that is like, we all think the same. We all have the same mindset, but we just don't realize it because our environmental factors change that. And therefore, that's where limiting mindsets come on. That's where anxious beliefs come from. That's where a lot of what we carry with us is through the environment, as well as, I don't know, like some fascinating stuff about epigenetics and being able to trace back 7 generations of stored memory in your DNA. And it's about raising our awareness to realize that all of that stuff is not a part of who we are, as in like as part of our identity. Our identity has got to be just our thinking types, just what's deep within that we can recognize within others. So that's the connection bit. So when you recognize bits of yourself in other people, you can then see the best thing in other people is within you. And so you start to look at each other and you go at other people and you go, wow, look at what they're made of. Look at what the best, I can see the best in them. And if you can see the best in other people, it gives you a better ability to see the best in yourself. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but it takes a lot of work. So what's the story so far? The story so far is, we've a bit of history. Born in Zimbabwe, moved to South Africa, then moved to England, played professional rugby, got a degree in psychology and organizational psychology, and a passion for people and culture, essentially. Then I retired from playing for Exeter Chiefs in England and Stormers about a year and a half ago to date. And today is the 28th of the 11th, 2023. And just before I retired, started a business, an e-commerce business called Gas, the Gaming Athlete. And the whole purpose of that was to create a role model brand, a safe community that people can come to realize, what's good, what's not so good, where can I come to chat, where can I come to develop character, how can I just be part of something that isn't toxic, isn't full of trolls, actually shows me a better way, and just helps me make a difference in a positive way for those around me, and that I know where to come to when I need to find some answers. So that was done on a mental health and physical health direction, so some products, but overall it was about the brand and what the brand represented, and that people would be proud of aligning themselves with the brand just by wearing it because it looked cool, as well as understanding the customer journey or the community journey that goes along with it, and just so that people feel part of something that they can contribute to that makes a positive difference outside of what their day-to-day is. Then, we'll do a whole other episode on the learns I've got from starting an e-commerce business with very little knowledge, but a lot of passion. And I had to slow that down just because I very quickly realized that we were trying to create the year 10 vision in year 1 with no business specific, what's what I'm looking for? Experience, knowledge, know-how. I thought I could just do this on my own, follow some bits of advice here or there, and just some things just didn't work out. You hire in people, and COVID hit, so there's delay on the factories, which is taking up money, etc., etc. And then just one or two things that just didn't work our way. But at the end of it, I will take ultimate responsibility, and I say I didn't know enough to lead that business as well as I could have, and so I had to slow it down and try and learn, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So we got to be kind to ourselves. Then I bought a business called Samson Almond, which was previously known as Samson Hall. So the lovely man called Phil Sampson ran it with his wife Sandra Sampson, and Phil unfortunately got prostate cancer about 4 years ago, which wasn't detected, went into his lymph nodes, and then got into bone cancer, which spread into his body. I said to them I'd do a bit of work for them just on the side while I'm trying to develop other things, and eventually they just said, look, we can't really carry on because we don't know about Phil's health and what's the end point and how he's going to be. So I said, look, it'll be a shame for you guys to shut your business down. I'll buy your business, because what I actually really wanted was to be able to buy a fully fledged, fully running business that I could learn from the structures, bring a bit of income in to be able to then feed it back into Gas as we go, drip feed, learn, drip feed, learn, drip feed, learn. Now I'm trying to see how we're going to scale up Samson Almond, where I can best make my efforts known and work in tandem, with Gas, and see how we go. So Samson Almond is about leadership development. So it looks at stuff like business strategy, culture, cultural paradigms, individual coaching, performance coaching. And it's fascinating. The crossovers are fascinating. And it's just interesting seeing how the different identities overlap and how people find the first difference and then look at that and go, yeah, it's got nothing to do with this. So it's trying to create a simple leadership language and almost put a platform up there so people know the difference in leadership and management and how important leadership is in our current day and age, especially with global access, global information, global culture that we can start to really dip into. So I'm hoping I've answered who I am, what's the story so far, what's the journey. The end game of Identity Human is to be able to get somewhere and make a positive difference that empowers people on their mental health and gets them to step up, empowers themselves, empowers those around them, and actually have lots of little pockets of empowered communities and standing up for the things that are right. Does that make sense? So supporting those others that have the courage to put themselves on social media doing good things, even though 95% of the comments are all trolls and people just going, this is pointless, what are you doing? Just trying to find all the negatives that they can find and just trying to change that narrative. We'll see. That'll take a lot of courage and a lot of connectivity and a lot of community. So if you like this, subscribe to the podcast, follow it, and see how we develop. So what is the podcast story? At the moment, what I wanted to do was just do raw editing, just get this stuff up online so that you can see the process. Anyone else wanting to start a podcast, I am going to be making mistakes. Some of this is going to seem so lame. Like, don't compare me to CEO of a Diary of a CEO podcast and their endpoint, because a big thing that I think we don't realize is the world celebrates outcomes and not the process. And often we don't realize how nitty gritty the process can be, and sometimes it's good to see that from start to finish. So I'm hoping that's what we get across in this podcast, is the nitty gritty process stuff that you don't necessarily see when you look at, I don't know, Diary of a CEO is a good example, and all the little things that go in between it. So if you look at the first 3 episodes, the first one was literally just slap and record. The second one was the same, but then getting guests in. I want to be able to get guests in and talk to as many people as I can and ask them their stories and ask them their learns, their opinions, their failures, how they can make a difference, because I think there's a lot that can be said for experience, and I'm hoping that people eventually start to become vulnerable enough to, do that kind of thing. And I know that there's other podcasts out there, but I feel like we can create something unique and special, and hopefully draw in the right kind of people. Why should people listen to this is the last question I had then. It's like, well, why should you? Why should you now get into, even in this one, 15, 16 minutes of your day listening to some bloke ramble off about things that he's passionate about? And I think one thing that I've learned about alignment, authenticity, and energy is it makes a difference to you when you listen to someone that actually believes in what they're talking about and will carry it through. Because if you start to put a lot of time and effort, your own effort into listening to what people are saying, you then take their opinion on board and you start to then adapt your lifestyle or your thoughts accordingly. Now, there's a lot of models and things that I've come across in the business that I bought, things that I've come up with on my own, because obviously it's a passion that I want to talk about that'll make a difference. So, I mean, we mentioned back to growth mindset. If you're really struggling, it's about understanding so many different elements of scale, elements of influence, elements of focused attention. Neuroplasticity comes into it. What are the little habits that we can build and the meaning behind them? I almost like to use like a confetti machine, is try and find out where the confetti machine is plugged in and go at source there, rather than trying to deal with all the confetti coming out, if we're talking like a mental health analogy. High performance, there's elements of that we'll talk on high performance and what it takes to create that kind of mindset. And elements of just in life, just how do we be consistent in life? I want to champion consistency. And, there's a couple of things going on at the moment. So I'm in the London Marathon next year, so running for Young Lives vs Cancer. Been asked to climb the 3 peaks next year and raise money there too. So I've obviously said yes, we want to be part of those things. Potentially climbing the highest mountain in Morocco, in the Atlas Mountains. I always forget its name, but obviously the earthquake put that aside. And just doing things that scare us and just showing people the process the whole way. So, yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, that has now taken 18 minutes to explain lots of different bits and bobs about the podcast. And I'm hoping that creates a good picture as to where we are at the moment, what we're trying to achieve, and where we're going. So why should you subscribe? Why should you put your time and effort into listening to it? Where is this going? So at the end of the day, this podcast, my intention is to add value to anyone listening. I do not want to just put a podcast out that's not going to add value. That's why it's taken so long, is I've had to make sure that when I commit, I commit. And along the way, I'm going to get people back on, and we see how things evolve. And the sooner you get on the journey and the longer you join it for, the more you'll be able to recognize the process and be able to apply it to things in your own life. And I'll obviously take bits from the community. I've got the stream running in the background here, so if people have questions, they can pop them on there. If they want to correct things I say, then we almost have like a live editing. Like, let's say I get a fact wrong or a fact and someone goes, I'm not sure that that's right. There's no issue with me correcting them on the podcast, because I think that's the whole point, is like we want to make sure that information is as accurate as possible at the time that we're doing it. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to say things that are inaccurate just for the sake of, making the podcast interesting. Integrity is a very big core value of mine, and I want to make sure that if I say I'm doing, and that's why things might take a bit longer to grow and develop. And obviously there's mindset blocks that I'm going to be dealing with as we go, and I'm very open to talking about them, because I think that's all part of journey, that's all part of life. Currently undergoing like a Neuralink questionnaire to try and see how the brain really works and how we learn within the brain, and how to get the best out of a mind, as well as the personality profiling that we do in my business. That fascinates me. It's really good at identifying trends, and when you see the other side of these things, honestly, it opens up a whole new world of, wow, I didn't actually know it was that. Like when you obsess over things and you look at them at the granular detail, you go, flip, actually there's a lot more to the human mind, and it's a lot more accessible than we currently think it is. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for too long just on the intro. That takes us to 20 minutes, which is where I'm trying to keep them for now. And so if you've listened to this far, thank you very much. If you want to share to people, just try and emphasize that we are building. It's in process. It's in practice. It's going to be full of failures. It's going to be full of building as we go. And as it starts to pick up momentum, then great. So if you've made it this far, I really appreciate you. I am very grateful for your time, your listening, and I hope that this has made some form of positive impact in your day, added some form of value. If there's things that you've heard me speak about that you want me to hear me speak about again, please get in touch somehow. I think there's polls, you can put comments, you can come onto our Twitch or our Discord, and you can put it there and be very, very appreciated. All right, have a great day. Thank you very much for listening, and remember, Ubuntu, we are who we are through others, but don't give away your bricks. And I'll talk about that next week. All right, cheers everyone. Bye.